The time is now. We exist in the immediate present, anchored in our real-time lives. But our next guest warns that because we are so focused on the now, we cannot learn from our past or plan for our future. He calls it present shock, which is also the name of his book. And joining us now for more in New York City, Douglas Rushkoff, author of Present Shock, When Everything Happens Now. And Douglas Rushkoff, we're happy to welcome you back to TVO's airwaves. How are you tonight?
Hi, good. Good to be with you again.
Well, those of us of a certain age certainly remember Alvin Toffler's Future Shock, and I presume you're playing off that in the title of this book?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it was my dad's, but, you know, I picked it up in the 1970s and, you know, read about this amount of change that was going to happen and how disoriented we were going to be by everything changing so much. And there was this sense at the end of the 20th century that we were all just leaning into the future, you know, waiting for the long boom and the stock market to explode and everything to happen. And we kind of then got into the 21st century, and I think a lot of us began to realize we had arrived. We were in the future that Toffler was describing, and the problem was not so much things changing so rapidly as everything happening to us all at once.
So that's a reference from 40 or so, 43 maybe years ago. Now I want to put a reference to you from today, which is The Real Housewives of Orange County, which I confess I haven't seen, but which I gather is somewhat of an inspiration for this book. You want to explain that?
Well, yeah, it's funny. I mean, you know, from the depths of depravity come, you know, the great ideas. But, you know, I was watching that show, and of course, I'm a media theorist, right? All my books have been about media and technology and communications. So I'm watching this show trying to figure out, why do the Real Housewives have so many communications breakdowns, right? Why can't they seem to communicate effectively? And what I realized was, on this show, you have women either having meals together or fighting about what happened in one of those meals together. And I realized that when they're trying to communicate, they have so much plastic surgery, so much Botox injected into their faces, you know, that they can't make facial expressions that are appropriate to the moment that they're actually in. And it seemed to me a classic temporal problem, a real temporal collapse, because here are women trying to lock down what their faces look like at age 29, and in order to do that, they've made themselves unavailable to the actual moment, to real time. And that, to me, is present shock, is trying to lock down one moment, but then missing the actual flow of lived human experience. As
you look at the time continuum, though, when do you think this shift from futurism to presentism presented itself?
I think it really happened around the turn of the century. You know, a few different things happened, and, you know, I wouldn't say one thing caused the other, you know, but, you know, we had the turn of the century and the end of the millennium, the Y2K bug, 9/11 we had happen. All these things happened right around the turn of the century that made people go, huh? You know, what's happening? You know, we stopped being a future-leaning sort of speculative culture and became much more a culture looking at, well, what's actually going on now? You know, it's hard to be futurist when you're just at the beginning of a millennium. You know, we're just here now. So that, and then also digital technology, which is very different from the industrial age and broadcast technologies that went before it. You know, with these little remotes and devices and DVRs, we tend to break things up into lots of little pieces. We move from choice to choice to choice to choice, rather than sitting and kind of experiencing a whole narrative or a whole story. And I feel like these two things have combined to really make us very present-focused. On the one hand, it's this healthy present of what's actually happening now? What are the impacts of what I'm doing? How do we move towards a sustainable society rather than always looking over the rainbow? But on the other hand, there's a kind of a present shock, which is less healthy. And that's more just, you know, constantly looking at each device, trying to keep up with your Twitter stream, you know, having things vibrate every time somebody tweets at you or interrupts you, and living in this state of kind of this constant, perpetual, chronic emergency interruption, which really was the kind of state that only, you know, 911 operators or air traffic controllers used to have to endure before this.
And to the extent that we as a society feel a certain way about this new presentism in our lives, or present shock, what is our reaction to it?
Well, most of us are pretty disoriented right now. You know, most of us are trying to somehow either reconstruct the story that we had. You know, we're kind of desperately looking for something, or we're just spending all of our time and energy trying to keep up. You know, people spend their whole day trying to they go to work and they're just kind of keeping up with their email at work and they feel they haven't really gotten anything done. Then they got home and then there's all this other stuff and your kid's on this device and your wife's on that device and you might as well be checking this thing while you're pretending to talk to that one. And this feeling of just never going, never exhaling, never actually just being where we are, not having the ability to make eye contact and just form rapport and breathe with another person. So I think there's a hunger for people to, you know, disconnect a little bit, or at least distinguish between all this virtual, digital productivity time and the real time that they spend with other people.
You break up the book into 5 chapters or segments, if you like, and you actually have them correspond to 5 syndromes. And I wonder why why the use of the word syndrome in that case?
Well, because for most of us, I mean, if it's a book called Present Shock, not Presentism. You know, so it's really, I feel like it's a little bit more compelling and people can relate, you know, we can relate to our faults in some ways better than we can relate to our success stories. So the chapter is really broken up into the 5 kind of pitfalls, the 5 syndromes of present shock. So that people can say, yeah, you know, I do that or I feel that. But there's hope. You know, each chapter has sort of, well, there's this one, there's narrative collapse, which is the inability to have a story without time, and how do you have goals and what do you do? But then I look at, well, what are the kind of goals? How can you organize story and narrative in a world where narrative has collapsed? You know, how can we have sort of sustainable solutions to problems? How can we look at things, you know, less through the lens of a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end? And rather, how can we look at things more in the shape of a video game where we're moving from choice to choice and having some autonomy over our path? So with each of these syndromes, I look at, you know, yeah, this is what we're suffering, but here's kind of the way to get on top of that, or the way to transform that syndrome into something that's much more like a strength.
Okay, let's pick those 5 apart a little more. The first one, you say we've lost our ability to tell stories. What do you call it? Narrative collapse. That was the expression. Can you give an example of how that manifests itself in society today?
Well, I mean, one is you know, a really positive one would be, you know, we don't watch commercials the same way anymore. I mean, talk to anybody in advertising. The minute a commercial comes on, people use the remote and they dash away from it. They go away. You know, but that channel surfing quality is something that we employ not just during commercials, but during shows as well, during stories. We don't. You know, we don't believe our politicians and their long-term goals, these ends justify the means campaigns toward things. So on the one hand, that means we can't really organize people politically around great missions. We don't get that sense of, you know, sort of unified campaign. But on the other hand, it's powerful because we realize, you know, won't get fooled again, right? We've been on these campaigns before and they never quite end up where we think they will. And we end up, you know, usually if we go on one of these campaigns, we end up in an ends justify the means thing where we do sort of nasty things justified by some future goal. You know, in a world where narrative is collapsed, then we need to find our bearing in another way. So if it's a company, they need to be able to communicate, well, what are the values of the actual product you're selling to us, rather than what's the story of the brand mythology, the character that supposedly uses this and does well. You know, we don't really we don't respond to the mythology, we don't respond to the story, but we do respond to truth in a different way. So, you know, there's something we lose in terms of that ability to convey morals through a great teaching story, but we gain a certain kind of a nonfiction, real-time communications ability.
Well, that may take us to the next question I was going to ask, which is computer games. You say that they're the sort of first satisfactory answer to this narrative collapse. How so?
Right. Well, in one way, yeah, very positively. You know, at the end of the narrative collapse chapter, I talk about, you know, computer games as this real-time narrative. So instead of watching some character go through a story that's already happened, you know, Oedipus did this, then Oedipus did that, then he did, it's already canned. His fate is sealed. And when you're in a video game, you're doing the thing in real time. You are moving from choice to choice to choice, you know, as the real-time protagonist of the story. So the thing is happening to you. So that's really consonant with this real-time presentist, present shock society. The problem is when you're moving through a world of choice to choice to choice, you know, sometimes it seems as if the technology is telling us, well, you don't have to choose this or that. You can choose both, right? You can have everything, have it all, and have it all right now. So you end up in what I call Digiphrenia, which is where you've chosen more than one thing at the same time, and you end up with these multiple personalities really existing simultaneously in the online space. There's your Facebook profile doing this, there's your Twitter doing that, there's your email inbox filling up, there's your Google Calendar, which, you know, appointments may be falling in there that you don't even see. Mark Zuckerberg may be advertising with your image in a Facebook update that you don't even know is happening. So there's all these things happening at the same time that you're going to have to answer for sooner or later, and we try to keep up with all these things, and we can't. Because human beings actually, we do exist just in one place at a time. We can't multitask. We can't be in these multiple incarnations. So that's really what Digiphrenia is. You know, as well as this sense in the digital space that all time is generic, that, you know, you could do something at 2 in the morning as easily as you could do it at 2 in the afternoon, and you end up with this giant Google Calendar life where everything is filled in, and you end up denying yourself the more natural underlying rhythms that shape human experience, or at least that have shaped our experience since there have been human beings. Things as simple as day and night, or the seasons, or even the phase of the moon, which we're just beginning to learn actually influence our neurochemicals in our brains. You know, we have a week where we're high in serotonin, and a week when we're high in acetylcholine, a week when we're high in dopamine. Yet we treat all these weeks interchangeably, not realizing there's one week when we're going to work harder, a week when we're going to party harder, a week when we're going to meet people better. And if we can learn about those underlying cycles and schedule ourselves really more biologically than digitally, we end up more productive, not less.
And to that end, I want to read an excerpt from your book that will, I hope, provoke another response out of you on this. So let's try this. Here's the excerpt. Our digital universe is always on, constantly pinging us with the latest news, stock quotes, consumer trends, email responses, social gaming updates, tweets, and more, all pushing their way to our smartphones. Everyone and everything intrudes with the urgency of a switchboard-era telephone operator breaking into a phone call with an emergency message from a relative, or a 1960s anchor interrupting a television program with a special report about an assassination. Anything we do may be preempted with something else. And I want to get a better understanding for you of what the long-term impact of that kind of life is.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I guess underneath it all, you know, what this book is about is the way we have taken the agenda and the bias of the industrial age and tried to amplify it through digital technology. You know, the industrial age was about time is money, do it faster, do it more, let's get production up, more, bigger, bigger, bigger. Where the digital age was actually is offering us something very different. You know, you think of it as simple as the difference between a telephone and email. You know, back in the day when the telephone rang, you'd have to answer it then or the call was gone, right? Telephone was a real-time technology, so you had to be there for it. When email came around, the thing that those of us who were around in the early days of email noticed was that email stays in the email inbox until you get to it. Right? Just because an email has come in doesn't mean you've got to run to it and answer it. It's actually sitting there. But what we've done is rather than really then delight in this asynchronous quality of digital technology, the fact that it will sit and wait for us, rather than returning to human time, what we've done is taken that kind of punch the clock, do it now, hurry, hurry, hurry ethos of the industrial age and just plugged it right into the digital age. So we take these devices, we strap them to our bodies, have them vibrate every time someone does something that we have to get to it right away. And the long-term effect of that is we're fried. The long-term of that is we lose the ability to pay attention to anyone. You know, we're spending hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars figuring out how to make these devices more compelling than one another. And as we stare into these screens and get increasingly addicted to that that endorphin rush of, oh, there's a good email, oh, somebody tweeted about me, we lose the ability to make eye contact with each other. We lose the ability to breathe in basic rapport with another human being. We all develop a kind of an Asperger's, if you will. And that's, nothing against people who have Asperger's, but to have that is disabling. It ends up really kind of disempowering our ability to be socially cohesive as people. And in the long term, that's destructive to us, as a body politic, as a citizenship, as a society.
Do you think that's happened because the sad truth is a lot of what happens in these little gizmos, and I'm holding one of them right now, is a lot more interesting than many of the people that we have to deal with during the course of our day?
It seems more interesting than many of the people we have to interact with. Just as, a nice, factory-made sweater on Amazon seems higher quality than that thing that grandma knitted. But we're slowly reversing that. I think people are realizing that connection with other people is actually more interesting if you know how to engage with other people. We long for the commodified relationship. We'd rather pay someone to teach us something than have a neighbor come and show it to us, because then we're going to maybe owe the neighbor some favor and we haven't figured out exactly what it was worth, what they just gave me, or now I'm going to have to invite that person to my Christmas party, and then they're going to want to sing show tunes, and then, so all these things they're going to want to do with us are the things we end up watching TV in order to get. So we watch TV about some other family that invites people over and has barbecues and does silly things, because we don't do any of that ourselves anymore, because somehow that's sloppy and messy and we'd rather just pay for the clean relationship. And it's the same with these devices, that we look at these things, oh, now I can have a ha-ha-ha from the safe distance of my BlackBerry, or what we call them rims now, right? From the safe distance of my rim, and not engage in that real messy, sloppy, face-to-face thing. No, the face-to-face thing is more interesting. A boring person is more interesting face-to-face than an interesting person is from long distance.
Well, as long as I'm speaking to one of the great media theorists out there, I think we should hear from another great media theorist slash philosopher. I want to play you a short clip from the great Louis C.K., and I want to remind everybody who's watching this at home, there's some bad language in here, so get the kids away from the TV for just a little while and then bring them back. Roll tape.
My daughter was having a dance thing at her school. They had this big dance. Anyway, we all went, all the parents, and everybody's there, and everybody's got their phone. Every single parent. It was an amazing thing to watch, because kids are dancing, and every parent is standing there like this. Every single person was blocking their vision of their actual child with their phone. And the kids, I went over by the stage, and the kids, there's people holding iPads in front of their faces. It looked like we're all in the witness protection program. Like, the kids can't see their parents. And everybody's watching a shitty movie of something that's happening 10 feet. Like, look at your kid. The resolution on the kid is unbelievable. If you just look, it's totally HD. Why are you taping this? You're never gonna watch it. In a million years, you're not gonna watch videos of your kids doing shit you missed the first time it happened. You don't watch it, you just put it on Facebook. Here, you watch it.
Douglas, why do we do that?
We do that because we're a little sick, right? That's because we're in present shock, because we are so committed and obsessed with capturing the moment that we miss the moment, right? The iPad in front of your child is the same as a Botox face in front of your friends, right? You're so compelled to somehow stop time that you miss it altogether. It's a great, irony of the digital age that we're given all of this choice, but we're choosing to miss unencumbered reality when it's staring us right in the face. And it's not hard. It's not hard to disengage from that. You do it a step at a time. Yeah. Go to your kid's show and decide, okay, if you're really going to record it, which parent is going to be the designated recorder and which one is going to get to sit and enjoy the actual event. It's really come to that.
The promise of technology, though, was quite the contrary, right? The promise of it was more leisure time, an easier life. How did it not turn out that way?
Well, it's a long discussion. You kind of have to read the book for this one, spend an hour with it. But the long and short of it is, I think, is we've built our entire digital infrastructure on an operating system that we're not acknowledging. And that's the operating system, really, of corporate capitalism. You know, we could say, oh, Facebook and Google and Twitter, these are the first digital age companies. They're not. They're good old-fashioned industrial age companies. The first thing these kids did as soon as they had a big company was they went right to Goldman Sachs and said, oh, we want a Series B. Oh, we want an IPO. Oh, we want to cash out. And once you have shareholders, your company is no longer about how are we going to enable people through technology. Your company has to be about how are we going to extract value from people? How are we going to make money and make more money faster over time? So these technologies are less about promoting any kind of human agenda, and they're much more about taking up more and more human time with digital activity. You know, and that's really a crucial mistake we've made as a society. And the only way out is for we who are the consumers of these technologies to say, well, wait a minute, is this really serving me in my life? Or have I jumped onto something and jumped into something that's pulling me out of my life?
In which case, how do we bring about this kind of cultural change that you obviously think we require, whereby the employer doesn't require the employee to return that email within 30 seconds of receiving it, et cetera, et cetera?
It's tricky. I mean, there's a lot of ways to unwind it, right? Like one way, we're watching it unwind all by itself in the so-called unemployment crisis. You know, we have our president saying and prime ministers, oh, we've got to get more jobs for people, more jobs. I don't really know many people who really want a job, right? They want stuff, they want money, but we don't all want jobs. Even jobs is a kind of obsolete notion of the industrial age. We can work and create value and trade and do things. So one path towards fixing some of this is rebuilding the peer-to-peer economy, the thing we're seeing just the tip of the iceberg of in things like Etsy and local currencies and Square and you know, people starting to trade directly with one another, creating value and exchanging that. We're also seeing it in the beginning of localism. You know, people are joining community-supported agriculture groups and trying to source things locally. It's not just because it's trendy, it's because they understand that it's in the long run, it's more efficient to begin to learn who else is around and where can I get things. And it's ultimately a whole lot more fun, too. So I think those two things are combining. You know, we're using digital technology to connect in a peer-to-peer fashion, and we're also using it to retrieve the local values that kind of got left behind. You know, plus an economy collapsing is something that really helps people get to know their neighbors awfully fast.
It does focus the attention, doesn't it? Yes. Well, we've got a few minutes left here, and we're not going to make it through all 5 syndromes, so we'll invite people to read the book to hear about the other 3 syndromes. But let's try this. You've mentioned some good examples there, more localized examples of some individuals who are managing to beat back this trend. How hopeful are you, though, that in a much grander sense and over entire cities or countries, we're able to turn back, I don't know if turn back the clock is the right expression, but stop this present shock and get into a more sane kind of existence?
I mean, I think we will. It's just a matter of how long it takes and how painless it is. You know, we are experiencing a major cultural shift, a shift at least as big as the shift from medieval times to the Renaissance. This is the shift that, you know, dear Toronton Marshall McLuhan was talking about, that we are going to retrieve medieval values as we re-explore that shift we experienced before. So the shift when we got nation states, when we got corporations, when we got industry, when we got factories, that was 600 years it took to get to this point. And it's going to take a couple of 100 years to unwind this sort of mechanization and industrialization drive. And I think that the path to success is really is not that painful at all. It might be painful for shareholders. It might be painful, you know, for the biggest corporations who are now looking at, well, how are we going to move towards a sustainable economy? How are we going to, you know, how are we going to live in a world where we're no longer growing quarter over quarter all the time? But for real people, it's not that difficult to start meeting your neighbors, to start thinking, what can I do with my time that's a little bit more meaningful? How can I make my public school better if I can't afford private school? You know, how can I begin to source things in a more creative and more community-minded way? It's really almost like enjoying your hobbies, because your hobbies are going to be, or they're going to become real again. You know, when we used to teach kids woodworking and shop, home economics and cooking in school, that's because people actually did this stuff. You know, it's not that hard, and it's actually fun and connected and real and less expensive. So I think people will rediscover their own competencies, and it doesn't have to be as awful as that.
The name of the book is Present Shock: When Everything Happens Now. Douglas Rushkoff, it's awfully good of you to join us on TVO tonight. Thanks so much.
Oh, it's good to be with you.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.